Gender is a very, very broad topic right now, especially in the year 2018, with people being transgender or not identifying as themselves or identifying as themselves. It really just depends on who you ask and who you talk to about it. Now, in the article about the boys, which was part of our reading, it states how we all surround ourselves by women saying woman power, they deserve it, they've been through so much, but we really don't think about the boys. We always assume that boys are tough, they can handle it themselves, they're hard-headed, they're fine, they don't need any support, that they can do it just by themselves. And I think that's where we run into a little road bump. I mean, I'm all for woman empowerment, don't get me wrong. I do feel that we are very, not underrated, but very put aside sometimes, if that's the correct wording I want to choose. Whereas we really put aside the males. We don't think that we do, because we all see in the news headlines every day, some guy did this, some guy did that, usually positive. But in the article, it talked about how we need to focus more on guys and boys in general. And it brings up a very interesting case. It brings up the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting. And they don't blame. Blame is a very harsh word for it. They like to say that most school shooters end up being male. 9 out of 10 times it ends up being male. You can't remember that many times or ever if it's ever been a female. And we always blame it on the male. But when we should be blaming it, we actually should be trying to help the males. I'm one for equality on either side. Although we say we are equal, we're not actually fully equal. There are some things that I'm sure you can think about that our guys are more above than women, or vice versa. And so that's what I think society needs to work on in these next coming years, is actually working towards this equality. And in Learning to Love the F Word, in our Ascensions book, it talks about not loving feminism, but understanding it. The author at first hated feminism. Yes, she is a female, but anything that was for feminism, she hated because she didn't understand it. So what she said in the book, in the article, was to actually do some research. Don't just assume you know it. Do some more research and then figure out whether you want to be a feminist or not. And she says that doing that research actually really helped her love the F word. Now, she's not going to go around screaming her prejudice on you. That's not what she wanted to do, and make it easier for you to understand that she likes it this way or the highway. She wanted you to understand that it's okay to be feminist, but it's also okay to agree with the guys sometimes too. Because even though guys are the, obviously male dominant gender here in pretty much the whole world, whether it's in South Korea where they have only male leaders, or anywhere besides England who's still run by the Queen, she just tries to show that it's okay to be partial as long as you know your information, as long as you know your fact checks. And she said that it was her senior year of high school when she finally reached the boiling point. And that's because she finally learned that she could save all the pain and anxiety that she's feeling from the feminism. And she learned that she could empower it, if anything. She could make the switch and empower herself and others around her by just changing it up a little bit. So, FIFA Sports is now just starting to incorporate slowly over time the females league, I think it's the 2016-2017 version, finally added the Women's World Cup as an option. Now these later years, they're adding the NWSL and now the Women's European League, and they're actually being on the cover, which I think is really cool. Because at first it was just the guys' league and no one really cared or knew about the women's league. Like, you could still ask the question today, what is the NWSL? And not many people would know. Not unless you played soccer or played in that league or just as a fan of one of the teams in your state. Then you really wouldn't know. Which I'm glad it's getting more of a call up, but there are still some situations with it that are still need to be dealt with. But I mean, that comes with time. It's still a fairly new league. So overall, we just need to be partial to everyone and who they associate with, how they associate themselves. Feminism, I mean, supporting the male, because they do support us. I mean, we can throw out all the bad things guys have ever done to women and say why we don't like them. But they've also done a lot of good things too. Like when Martin Luther King and Anne Franklin and all those, they weren't standing up for just their gender in that race. They were standing up for the whole gender as a whole. And even then, they were standing up for anyone who would follow their cause. So that's a really big thing. People need to get behind on who people are deciding to live as. It shouldn't be looked at as, ew, you're not what you were born as. Like, what the heck? We're in 2018 now, and we're only going to progress further with more things coming out that are probably going to be bizarre, but it's just what people identify as. It's what makes them feel comfortable as themselves, and that's really all it should be, is people wanting to be comfortable either as a man, a female, trans, a feminist, or anything. It's all about acceptance and equality, and we still have a lot of work to go, but I mean, it's always a work in progress to get something right.